How you doing, guys? Big Mac Danscore here today, back once again with another video for you. It's time for your penultimate issue of Conquest, issue 79. So, as always with Conquest, let's start with what comes with this issue and value in it. Well, it's a bit tricky, this one. We get the Magnavent Walkway. This is part of a kit from Games Workshop that's more than just the walkways. It's the walkways and it's the Magnavent, galvanic Magnavent it is. We've had some parts of this kit already back in issue 55, and we are getting the next part of it, the final part of it, in next week's issue. So we're splitting the kit over 3 issues, and it's a £45 kit in total, giving us per issue a value of £15. So it's £7 and a penny saving this issue, and next issue as well, £7 and a penny saving. Also, in this issue, we get the Magnavent Walkway. I've just gone off track here. I'm doing this a little differently this week. I've got notes. Instead of reading through the magazine, I've taken notes, and I'm hoping that'll help me keep it on track. Apart from this little side step, of course. So, it's the Magnavent Walkways we're getting with this issue, Death Guard Defilers, and learn 3 ways to play. So, a little bit more of the rules, maybe. Onto the first page, we get the Death Guard Defilers. From Death Guard lines, something mysterious stirs. On piston-driven legs, a crab-like defiler clatters forward, guns blazing and armoured claws crushing its unfortunate victims. They were first made by Black Legion warpsmiths, and they're now commonly used on the battlefield by all Chaos Forces, and the Death Guard like to use them. Also, the vehicle type is Demon Engine. Their role on the battlefield is Armoured Warwalker, Specialism, Siege War and Anti-Armour, so they're good at taking out heavily armoured targets and positions. Notable battles: the Siege of Macragge, Assault on Cadia and the Plague Wars. Weapons include Battle Cannon, Havoc Launcher, Reaper Autocannon, Twin Heavy Flamer, Defiler Claws and Defiler Scourge. A lot of them are various options you can take, so you can't necessarily take all of those things together. There's a demon bound into the machine in the same way that demon engines that we've seen in previous issues have a demon bound into them. Once the entity is bound within the body of the machine's panels and stuff start to warp to better suit the needs of the particular demon entity. Then onto the next page we get Soul Grinders. As large as a greater demon. Soul Grinders are as large as a greater demon. They're terrifying to behold and near impossible to stop. They're often used to spearhead attacks by Chaos Forces, and they appear where least expected due to their demonic nature. They have wrist-mounted siege guns. Warp energies come from their mouths, like warp flames basically, and massive sword and claw. The essence of a destroyed demon is bound to the machine. These destroyed demons, their essence turns up in a place called the Forge of Souls, and they strike a bargain to basically be reanimated. And in order to be reanimated, the price is they get bound into one of these soul grinders, and they have to kill a certain number of mortals for the entity, for the soul forges, before they get re-coalesced into demon form, if that makes sense, rather than just in this demonic engine form. So the problem with that is the bargain is often like it's a trick basically. So they're bound to this demon engine, and the toll of the soul forges just keeps rising. So let's say the toll is 1,000 souls before the demon gets remade into just typical demon form. Then, as soon as they've killed 1,000 souls, they say, oh, we need 1,000 more for whatever reason, and then 1,000 more and 1,000 more, and it's a never-ending cycle, and the demon is often bound for eternity into this demon engine. There's a specific type of soul grinder called a Plague Hulk. Now, I say a specific type of soul grinder. It's essentially the same thing, but not quite. There's a few differences. There's a demon of Nurgle bound to it, and they're often more bloated, more pox-ridden, and instead of shooting warp flame and warp energies from their mouths, they spew acidic plague filth instead of warp flame. They also have a rock cannon and a giant plague sword instead of a huge claw and a sword. Onto the next page, we get Chaos Gods Slaanesh. These are some new models from Slaanesh. I'll just cycle through the pages as I talk here. But they were born in the death throes of the Eldari race, the Slaaneshi demons. Or the god Slaanesh was born in the death throes of the Eldar race. The door between reality and the Imperium was basically kicked wide open by the birth of Slaanesh. And hundreds of worlds were consumed by the Eye of Terror. That is where the Eye of Terror is now, is the former heart of the Eldar Empire. But now the worlds within the Eye of Terror, they're known as Chrome Worlds by the Eldari, and there's a lot of old Eldar architecture and stuff, but many of the worlds are just purely overrun by demons of all forms, but in particular Slaanesh. The majority of the Eldar souls were consumed in the birth of Slaanesh, and most of the gods were as well, but not quite all of the gods. There's a little trickster god on the loose, known as Segorak or Chegorak or something like that, the Harlequin god, the trickster god. Slaanesh enjoys tempting mortals into Slaanesh's realm, and often does so by offering them eternal riches or eternal food and stuff like that. The other Chaos Gods don't like it when mortals enter their realm, but Slaanesh is more than happy to welcome mortals into the realm, because Slaanesh turns the temptations that it offers into tortures in such ways as they give you mountains and mountains of gems, and then you just sat there endlessly counting your wealth that you've accrued, and it's an endless task basically. And if you're starving, Slaanesh might offer you an endless banquet, but the banquet never really satisfies your hunger, so you just keep eating and eating until you get fatter and fatter and more bloated and fatter. That, to me, is the essence of Slaanesh, is excess. Some people often think Slaanesh is a sexy god, and the god of temptation, more so than excess, but I've always thought of Slaanesh as the god of excess. It's the way... I wasn't too into chaos when I was first into the hobby around 12, but since I've gotten back into the hobby, that's what Slaanesh has always been to me. I've learnt more about Slaanesh, and Slaanesh is basically the god of excess, not the god of sexiness, like some people seem to think. The Imperium is rotten to the core. How do you feel about that, Imperium players? Well, not even the Inquisition knows how far the corruption has spread into the Imperium. The Eldari look on and wonder how long it will be before mankind suffers the same fate as them. Turning to the next page, we get Landspeeder Storm. It's an open-top variant of a Landspeeder, basically, and carries small scout squads. The armour rating is 5, speed 10, firepower 5, crew 2 scouts, transport 5 scouts, it can transport 5 scouts, armaments, Cerberus launcher and heavy bolter. It also has baffled engines, which will help it keep quiet whilst it's sneaking through enemy lines. The Cerberus launcher is basically it launches frag rockets, so fragmentation rockets, same as like frag grenades but in rocket form basically. Next page we get how to build, and it's 4 pages of detailed instructions. There's not really a lot to talk about. You'll see the walkways in the image behind me, they're upside down, and that's because it's easier to build them upside down once you connect them all together. You don't really have to use glue with these walkways, but for some of the connections you might need to use a bit of glue if they're slightly loose, and you might need to shave them down if they're slightly too big, the connections. I with all the walkways and stuff I've got so far from the Sector Mechanicus terrain, I find that mine haven't snapped. Some people say the plug and socket thing on them, once you've used it a few times, they start to wear down and they snap, but none of mine have snapped. Now I'm not taking it apart and rearranging it every 2 minutes, but maybe those other people are, or they just use it a lot more than me. But yeah, I find that they're durable enough for my needs. Let me know if they are for your needs in the comments below. On to the next page, we get rules. Three ways to play, not 4, 3. So 3 ways to play. We've got open play, narrative play and match play. Open play has fewer rules and fewer restrictions. Narrative play, it's the way we've been taught to play throughout the run of Conquest. and it's like in Conquest, it's the story of the invasion of Corvan 2. So that's how we've been playing. We've been playing to achieve goals set out in the story that we've been reading along with, and I think it's a really good way for new players to sort of get into the hobby in a bit more depth. And match play is, there's more rules basically. There's more rules, more restrictions on how you can build your army. But the good thing about match play is it gives you a more balanced side to gaming. Open play technically is just putting all your models on the table if you want, and then I might only have one model and you have 20 models. You stick 20 models on the table, and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do now? But yeah, going into a bit more detail, there's publications available to aid each style of play. For example, rule books, campaign books, and chapter approved. Onto open play in a bit more detail. It's a great way to get all your minis on the table, like I said. There's no need to worry about detachments or points restrictions, anything like that. So if I want a real challenge, and I know a Tyranid player, for argument's sake, I might set up my Tempestus Scions army. If I had one, I've got a squad and a vehicle. But if I had a Tempestus Scions army, let's say of about 4 squads, a command squad and a couple of Tauroxes, then I might set them up in the middle of a battlefield, surrounded by like walls of martyrs or terrain pieces to show that they're dug in that position, and reenact Rorke's Drift. So Rorke's Drift is a battle that took place in South Africa between British Army officers and Zulu. The Zulu tribes, like thousands of Zulu. There's a film about it called Zulu. Yeah, so there could be an endless horde, endless swarms of Tyranids just being thrown at my army. But you can create your own rules in open play. So if you do that, you can create ways for the Tempestus Scions to survive longer than they would normally. So instead of having the cover rules the way GW suggests them, you might get a 2+ save from the cover if they are within a certain compound or something like that, your Tempestus Scions. So the Tyranid swarms keep coming in, but if they attack over a barricade, there might be a cover save for the Tempestus Scions. Stuff like that, just to spice it up a little bit and to change the rules to suit your needs and desires. And then narrative play, it's great if you've got a regular opponent narrative play. You can tell a story over any number of battles. So if you play once a month with the same opponent 12 times a year, then you could start a narrative campaign at the start of the year and finish it just near Christmas, something like that. So finish it just in December near the end of the year, and you can start a new narrative campaign every year if you wanted to. Or it doesn't have to be over the course of a year, it can be over the course of a single battle or over the course of a number of weeks, and you can get multiple people involved in things like narrative campaigns where the Imperium is trying to wipe out all the Xenos on certain worlds, but then chaos gets involved, and depending on how many people you have in your gaming group, it might be a really fun way for you to play. There's resources available to help give you narrative ideas, such as the Warhammer Studio books, and also just codexes and rule books and campaign books and stuff like that. And then we have match play. Match play is great for games with new opponents, and it's great for tournaments. And that's about it for the 3 ways to play. I was hoping they might have given us a point summary for the forces we have, but unfortunately they've not done that. So we can't quite play with the 3 different ways to play at the minute because we don't have points, we just have power level to play with. It's not the end of the world, because you can just go out and buy a codex if you do want to play a match play, if you think you want to. If you want to enter tournaments and stuff like that, then it's definitely worth doing so. And also, if you want to continue to play in narrative play ways, then there's some great campaign books at the minute being released every month or so, called The Psychic Awakening. And there's an Orc one coming up soon, which I'm very excited about, the Saga of the Beast. It's Orcs versus Space Wolves. Anyway, on to Rules Terror from the Deep. This is this week's scenario. Felthius's invasion has not quite gone to plan. Typhus has provided a chance of turning the conflict to victory. He leads a thousands strong force he leads a 1,000-strong force of Poxwalkers round the Ultramarines' lines and through the murky seas to the city of Tam's Folly. Captain Asherad knows that this is a diversion, but he's got to send a force there anyway to try and cut them off and head them off before they cause too much of a problem. There's 2 new stratagems with this mission as well. There's the Endless Pox stratagem, which is 1 command point for the Death Guard. You basically, if you want to enact the Endless Pox stratagem, you remove a unit of Poxwalkers from the battlefield, and then you place it fully within 6 inches of an edge of the battlefield at full strength. So if you've got, say, a unit of 20 or 26 Poxwalkers, which I think is the maximum size we can play, something like that, 22, 26, something. If you've got a massive unit of Poxwalkers and it gets down to like the last 5 models, you play this stratagem, then you can place that unit of Poxwalkers on the edge of the battlefield at its full strength again, so at 22 Poxwalkers or 26, whatever you started with. So then you've got an endless supply of Poxwalkers theoretically, as long as you play that stratagem at the right time. If you leave it too late to play the stratagem, the Poxwalker unit might get wiped out and then you can't replace it because there's no Poxwalkers left to replace. And then we have the Avenge the Fallen stratagem for the Ultramarines. When an Ultramarines unit has been destroyed by an enemy attack, you can re-roll 1s against the unit that destroyed your Ultramarine unit, so against the Death Guard unit that destroyed your Ultramarine unit, until the end of the battle. It's a really good one, that one. There's already rules within built into certain Ultramarines characters and stuff where you can re-roll 1s, hit rolls of 1, but still this is a good redundancy policy to help you get hits against a particular unit. You might want to do it if you want to take out the enemy warlord, for example, and the Death Guard warlord takes out one of your units, so you say you want to re-roll hits against them in order to increase your chances of getting Slay the Warlord. It's just something to think about there. And anyway, onto the mission itself. We get 60 power level mission, the same as I think last week. I think it was 60 power level last week, might have been a bit smaller, I can't remember. We're setting up the battlefield mats, the battle mats, side by side. The Death Guard have a 6-inch deployment zone. The objective markers, the 3 Ultramarine symbols behind me, are the objective markers, and the Space Marines have a 12-inch deployment zone. The first unit to be deployed, the Space Marines are the first place to deploy a unit, basically, and then you alternate your deployment as has been typical throughout Conquest. First turn goes to the Death Guard, and each objective is worth 2 victory points. Slay the Warlord is worth 1 victory point. Slay a unit, 1 victory point, and the game lasts 5 battle rounds. On to the final Conquest. What are we getting in next week's issue? Well, I've already said it. We're getting more Magnavent Walkways, but we get to paint the Magnavent Walkways as well. We're getting a painting guide in this issue, and the battle for Corvon 2 ends. Whew, it's been emotional, this Conquest journey, hasn't it? Has for me anyway. If you don't want to give up seeing me ramble about magazines week after week, then maybe consider watching my Mortal Realms videos. And thanks to everyone who has watched them so far, and also everyone who has pledged to Patreon in order to help me pay for Mortal Realms content. I was going to say Conquest then. Yeah, if you would like to pledge towards my Patreon, help the channel out. It's not just going to Mortal Realms, it's going primarily at the minute to Mortal Realms. But if I get more pledges than I need in a month, then it'll go back into the channel in general, getting things like lighting, maybe a second camera, a second phone, and then I'll just edit it on one phone and have an editing phone and a normal phone. Whoa, crazy. And it will go towards helping me be able to do back reps and stuff like that in the future. Anyway, like I said, if you'd like to help the channel out, you can consider pledging to my Patreon. I'll pop a link in the description below. There's more Conquest to come on the channel though as well. The end of Conquest won't be the end of Conquest on this channel. What's going to happen, the Mortal Realms videos will switch over to my regular Thursday video, just to give them a regular time slot. And Conquest will still be on the channel in the form of my painting videos and bat reps as well. I'm going to have bat reps coming up on the channel, starting with the tutorial missions and going on eventually into proper bat reps, hopefully. Yeah, so that's everything I've got for you this week. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the battlefield.